Silence doesn't mean indifference, and that's the mistake most men make. When a woman goes quiet, the first assumption is that she's lost interest or moved on, but more often than not, silence is the result of internal conflict, not emotional absence. She feels something, but she's resisting it. She's curious, emotionally pulled, yet hesitant to act. That tension creates quiet observation instead of communication. She watches because part of her is still invested. Even if she's not ready to show it, when emotions are unresolved, people don't always move forward. Sometimes they pause. A woman who is emotionally conflicted often chooses silence because it gives her control. It allows her to feel without exposing herself. Reaching out would mean risking rejection, vulnerability, or a shift in the dynamic. Staying silent lets her keep one foot in and one foot out. She can observe your life, your energy, your behavior, and your emotional stability without committing to anything. Silence becomes her safe space to process what she feels. This inner conflict usually comes from mixed emotions. She might miss you, but she also fears losing power. She might feel attraction, but she doesn't want to seem needy. She might care, but she's unsure if reaching out will reopen emotions she tried to close. That push and pull keeps her stuck between desire and restraint. So instead of acting, she watches. Instead of speaking, she observes. Silence becomes a compromise between wanting connection and protecting herself. Men often misread this silence and rush to fill it with effort. They send messages, explanations, emotional paragraphs, or attempts to fix the distance. But doing that removes the very tension that's keeping her emotionally engaged. When you chase, you relieve her conflict. You make things easy again. And when things are easy, she doesn't have to confront her feelings. She can simply react. Silence forces her to feel. Pressure allows her to avoid feeling. Another reason silence happens is emotional uncertainty. She's not sure where she stands with you emotionally, so she steps back to gain clarity. Watching from a distance lets her evaluate without influence. She notices how you handle absence. She notices whether you stay grounded or become reactive. She notices whether your confidence holds or collapses. All of that information feeds her internal decision making process. Silence isn't passive, it's active observation. Understanding this changes how you respond. Instead of assuming rejection, you stay calm. Instead of chasing reassurance, you remain steady. You don't try to force resolution because resolution only comes after clarity. Her silence is part of that process. And the more emotionally stable you remain during this phase, the more you position yourself as someone safe, confident, and emotionally strong. Silence caused by conflict doesn't end connection. It reveals what still exists beneath the surface. Curiosity is one of the strongest emotional forces, and it's often the reason she keeps watching even while staying silent. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop trying to prove anything, certainty disappears. And when certainty disappears, curiosity takes its place. She no longer knows what you're thinking, how you feel, or where you're headed, and that uncertainty captures her attention. Silence doesn't push her away, it makes her wonder. As long as you were available, predictable, and constantly reaching out, there was nothing for her mind to engage with. Everything was known, everything was expected. But when you pull back and redirect your focus to your own life, she begins to ask questions. Has he moved on? Is he happier? Is he becoming stronger without me? Those questions keep her attention locked on you far more than any message ever could. Curiosity thrives on gaps, and your absence creates those gaps naturally. This is why men who chase lose attraction, while men who remain centered gain it. When you're not trying to manage her feelings, you allow her imagination to work. She fills the silence with her own thoughts. She replays memories. She wonders if she misjudged you. She compares how it felt when you were present versus how it feels now. That internal dialogue is emotional engagement, and emotional engagement is the foundation of attraction. Watching doesn't always mean stalking or obsession. It can be subtle. She checks your social presence. She asks mutual friends about you. She notices changes in your energy, your confidence, your lifestyle. She's looking for signs. Signs that you're growing, signs that you're stable, signs that you didn't fall apart when she went quiet. Curiosity sharpens when she sees you doing well without seeking her validation. That contrast creates intrigue. Curiosity also protects her pride. Reaching out feels risky. Watching feels safe. By observing from a distance, she avoids vulnerability while still staying emotionally connected. This is especially true when attraction exists, but certainty does not. She's drawn to you, but she wants reassurance without exposure. So she watches first, she waits, she gathers emotional data before making a move. What keeps curiosity alive is your consistency. If you appear reactive, desperate, or emotionally unstable, curiosity turns into relief that she stayed silent. But if you remain calm, focused, and grounded, curiosity deepens. She starts wondering not just what you're doing, but who you're becoming. Growth is attractive. Stability is magnetic, and curiosity naturally follows both. Silence combined with strength creates intrigue. When she stays silent, she's not just observing your life, she's measuring your emotional strength. Silence becomes a test. not a punishment, and how you handle it tells her more about you than any conversation ever could. Women are deeply intuitive when it comes to emotional stability. They notice reactions, they sense shifts in energy, and when they go quiet, they pay close attention to whether you stay grounded or unravel under the absence. If you respond to her silence with panic, repeated messages, emotional explanations, or attempts to force clarity, it signals insecurity. It shows that your emotional center depends on her response, and while that might feel honest, it quietly weakens attraction. Emotional strength isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about regulating them. It's about staying calm when certainty is removed. When she sees that you don't collapse when attention disappears, it communicates confidence without words. Silence gives her a front row seat to your emotional maturity. She watches to see if you respect her space or try to invade it. She observes whether you become reactive or remain composed. She notices if your life continues with purpose or if it stalls while you wait for her attention. All of this information shapes how she feels about you. Emotional strength isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself. It shows up in how you carry yourself when no reassurance is given. This is why men who chase during silence usually lose ground. Chasing tells her that absence controls you. It tells her you're seeking relief instead of clarity. But when you remain steady, she feels safe on an emotional level. Safety doesn't come from constant communication, it comes from consistency and character. A man who can handle uncertainty without emotional volatility feels reliable, centered, and strong. Silence also reveals how much control you have over your impulses. Everyone feels the urge to reach out when uncertainty hits. Emotional strength is choosing not to act on that impulse blindly, is trusting that truth doesn't require force. When she sees that you don't need to chase to feel secure, it subtly elevates how she perceives you. You become someone who leads his emotions instead of being led by them. What she's really measuring is this: can you remain the same man with or without her attention? If your confidence depends on her response, silence will expose it. But if your confidence comes from within, silence only highlights it. And that distinction matters deeply. Attraction grows toward emotional self sufficiency, not emotional dependence. Strength during silence speaks louder than any reassurance ever could. Attraction doesn't grow under pressure, it grows in distance. When communication becomes constant, predictable, and emotionally heavy, resistance builds. Silence removes that resistance. It gives attraction the space it needs to breathe, reset, and sometimes even reignite. This is why distance often does more for connection than constant contact ever could. When you step back, you remove pressure, and without pressure, emotions can resurface naturally. Pressure creates expectation. Expectation creates obligation, and obligation kills desire. When a woman feels like she has to respond, has to explain, or has to manage her emotions, attraction fades. Silence removes those emotional demands. It gives her freedom, and freedom is where genuine desire lives. When she doesn't feel pushed or pulled, she can feel honestly. That honesty is where attraction either strengthens or dissolves. Distance also allows emotional memory to do its work. When you're always present, emotions stay neutral. But when you're absent, feelings have room to echo. She starts remembering how she felt with you: the laughter, the comfort, the connection. Emotional memory is often stronger in absence than in presence. And if the bond mattered, those memories surface naturally during silence. That's why people often feel emotions more deeply after someone steps away rather than while they're still there. Silence creates contrast. It shows her what life feels like without your energy. And contrast sharpens perception. If your presence added value, she feels that absence. If it didn't, silence feels easy. Either way, distance clarifies reality. It strips away distraction and forces emotional truth. That's why silence is so powerful. It doesn't manipulate, it reveals. Men often misunderstand this, assume attraction fades in silence, but attraction fades faster under pressure. Constant messages, emotional explanations, and forced conversations overwhelm the emotional space attraction needs. Distance, when paired with confidence and self respect, does the opposite. It restores balance, it brings mystery back, it removes predictability, and predictability without effort kills emotional engagement. Distance also shifts the dynamic from reaction to choice. Instead of responding to you, she chooses whether to move toward you. And choice is everything in attraction. When she reaches out after silence, it's because she wants to, not because she feels obligated. That difference creates a stronger emotional foundation. It turns interaction into intention. Silence is an absence of interest, it's space for it to return. Even when a woman still feels something, fear can be stronger than desire, and that fear is often what keeps her silent. Reaching out means risk, it means exposing herself emotionally, it means possibly facing rejection, indifference, or the realization that things won't go the way she hopes. Silence, on the other hand, protects her pride. It allows her to observe without putting her feelings on the line. So instead of acting on what she feels, she waits, she watches, she hesitates. Many men assume that if a woman cared, she would reach out immediately. But human behavior isn't that simple. Attraction doesn't eliminate fear, it often intensifies it. The more something matters, the more there is to lose. If she's unsure where she stands with you, reaching out feels like stepping into the unknown. What if you've moved on? What if you don't respond the way she expects? What if she loses control of the situation? These questions create hesitation, and hesitation looks like silence. Pride plays a big role here. No one wants to feel rejected, especially after emotional distance has already formed. Silence gives her the illusion of control. As long as she doesn't reach out, she doesn't have to face a possible outcome she can't manage. She can tell herself she's choosing distance even if part of her wants connection. Watching from afar becomes a way to stay emotionally connected without risking vulnerability. Fear also comes from uncertainty. She may not know how you feel anymore. She may be unsure whether her reaching out would be welcome or ignored. And uncertainty makes people freeze. Instead of acting, they observe. They look for signs. They wait for reassurance without asking for it. Silence becomes her way of gathering information before making a move. This is why your response to silence matters so much. If you appear reactive, desperate, or emotionally unstable, her fear increases. Reaching out feels even riskier. But if you remain calm, grounded, and consistent in who you are, fear slowly loses its grip, safety grows, confidence becomes visible. And when safety outweighs fear, action becomes possible. Silence doesn't always mean lack of interest. Sometimes it means interest fighting fear. And only emotional stability gives fear a reason to step aside. She's not just watching, she's deciding. Silence isn't passive, it's a waiting period where she observes patterns, consistency, and emotional direction. What she sees during this time heavily influences her next move. And the deciding factor isn't what you say or how often you post, it's who you remain when nothing is happening. Your consistency during silence tells her whether you're emotionally solid or emotionally dependent. Women are drawn to predictability in character, not predictability in availability. If you remain steady, focused, and unchanged by her silence, it sends a powerful signal. It shows that your confidence isn't borrowed from her attention. It shows that your sense of self doesn't rise and fall based on her responses. That kind of emotional consistency feels safe, it feels mature, and it makes you stand out from men who lose themselves the moment communication stops. During silence, she's observing whether your life continues to move forward. Are you still working on your goals? Are you still socially engaged? Are you still grounded in your purpose? Or does everything pause while you wait for her to reappear? Men who stall their lives communicate scarcity. Men who keep moving forward communicate abundance. And abundance is attractive because it signals choice, confidence, and self worth. She's also watching how you handle uncertainty. Do you panic and try to regain control? Or do you accept the unknown calmly? Emotional maturity shows up most clearly when things aren't defined. When you don't rush to label, explain, or force resolution, you demonstrate trust in yourself and in the process. That trust reassures her on a deep level. It tells her that being with you won't feel chaotic or emotionally draining. Consistency also means your behavior aligns with your values. You don't act differently just to get a reaction. You don't perform for attention. You stay authentic. That authenticity creates emotional credibility. It tells her that what she sees is what she gets, and that reliability makes decisions easier. People move toward what feels stable. If she decides to reach out, it will be because your consistency made the choice feel safe and natural. If she doesn't, your consistency still protects you. It keeps you from chasing uncertainty or investing in confusion. Either way, consistency puts you in a position of strength. What you maintain in silence determines what comes next.